Hi, I'm Andy and I know containers. This right here used to be an old rotten double carport. Today it's a proper container garage with a gym, with a workshop, a bathroom and additional storage next to it. And honestly, that's probably the craziest part about this whole project. Before the first container was even placed, it almost failed several times already. Because long before crane day we had to deal with permits, site layout, access foundations, height restrictions, utilities and a lot of logistics that could easily have killed the project before it even started. In this video, I'll show you the full story from the old broken carport to the finished container structure. When we took over this house, this old double carport was still standing here. Timber posts, a simple sheet metal roof, crooked, leaking and visually completely disconnected to the property. And I knew pretty quickly this thing is not staying. If you walk past something like that every day, it annoys you every single time. So it was obvious that it had to be replaced with something better. The original idea was actually very clear. 3 40-foot containers next to each other, almost 12 meters wide, with enough space for cars, gym equipment, workshop area and some technical space. So not just a garage, but a proper steel structure with a real function. The problem was that the property is located in an outdoor zone in Germany, and in a location like that you can't simply decide to place a huge steel structure wherever you want just because you have the idea and the space. The local authority looked at the existing structure, and the existing structure was an old double carport. So the 12-meter version was basically dead from that moment on. In the end, we agreed on a solution that still worked within the framework, around 9 meters wide instead of almost 12 meters. So instead of 3 full 40-foot containers, the final concept became 3 containers shortened down to roughly 30 foot each. On top of that came another requirement. The garage had to stay relatively close to the house, around 7 meters distance at most, so that the whole thing would still read as one connected courtyard situation and not as a separate second building somewhere out of the property. After a lot of discussions, it also became clear that we wouldn't just be allowed to create a pure garage. Instead, the usage had to be thought of more broadly: garage, workshop, gym and a bathroom combined in one structure, as long as the outer shell and the approved footprint stayed within the permitted limits. Once the permit was finally in place, we were able to mark the whole project outside for the first time. With laser, tape measure, peg strings and layout lines, a drawing on the paper slowly became a real construction project. At the same time, I started demolishing the old carport. And that's when the next major problem already became obvious: access. Because the containers had to come in via a narrow road and then over a field path to reach the actual built area. In some places that path was only around 3 meters wide, with tight turns, soft ground and absolutely no room for sloppy planning. So very early on we had to think about which truck, which crane, which sequence, what gets delivered first, how much room is there to turn, how do we actually get these containers into crane range without destroying the site. After that, the next big topic was the base of the entire structure: first heights and drainage. The structure was only allowed to be maximum 2.75 meters high. A standard high cube container, however, is 2.89 meters high externally. So if we had simply placed the containers on normal finished ground level, we would already have exceeded the permitted height. And on top of that, we would have ended up with an annoying step in front of the roller doors. So the solution was to lower the entire structure by around 16 centimeters. That way, we stayed within the permitted maximum height and at the same time created a generally level access into the garage. After that, we planned the utilities: wastewater, freshwater, electricity, data, and an additional spare conduit. Because if you want to use the space later as garage, workshop, gym and bathroom, all of that has to be in the right place below ground before anything else happens. For the foundation, we did not build one massive slab. Instead, the structure sits on point foundations. That makes sense because a container transfers its loads structurally through defined points, mainly through the corners and along the longitudinal beams. So the foundations were aligned precisely to those load points. Using better boards, diagonal string lines and laser measurements, we made sure that everything would match: rectangle, height, spacing and load transfer. It's not the most spectacular part of this project like this, but that's exactly where it gets decided whether everything later sits cleanly or whether you end up fighting with spacers, shims and ugly correction work. While foundations and underground services were being prepared outside, the actual container modification were happening in the workshop. The three 40-foot containers were shortened down to roughly 30 feet, insulated underneath, protected with bitumen and open up with large cutouts. And once you start cutting large sections of container walls, one thing becomes very important. A container is only brutally strong as long as its box structure remains intact. The moment you remove large wall sections, you have to rebuild that structure integrity with proper steel reinforcement. So all major openings were framed and supported again with steel frames and supporting members. On top of that came 5 windows, 1 large glass door and 2 electric roller doors, each around 3 meters wide and about 2.2 meters high. Inside, we also prepared for the later fit out with insulation, double OSB cladding and ventilation measures against condensation. And once all the steelwork was complete, everything was painted in reed green. And then of course, those 3 modified containers still had to go onto the side. Before even attempted that, we tested several possible methods with trailers, rollers, forklift, loader, etc. First on the yard, then outside in more realistic conditions. And once we moved to the actual field path, it turned into exactly the kind of mess you would expect. Soft ground, a forklift getting stuck, help from a tractor, rain, and a lot of repositioning. It was one of those days where everything takes longer than planned and every small movement has to be thought through twice. But after around 7 hours, all 3 containers were finally standing on the grass within crane reach and ready for the decisive day. Crane day was the moment where planning suddenly turned into a real building. That day it was basically just 2 of us plus the crane operator, and still we had to place all 3 containers, align them properly and pull them together. The first one was also the most critical one, the largest reach, the heaviest container, and exactly the one where the service pipes for water and wastewater had to come through the floor in the correct position. After that came the lighter second unit and the third unit with the roller doors. Once all 3 were roughly in place, we used ratchet straps to pull them together laterally and diagonally until the gaps, roof edges and alignment all matched properly. Only after that, we started welding at the corner castings and in the roof area. That was the point where 3 individual containers slowly became one connected structure. At roof level, we also had to solve the drainage because 3 separate container roofs suddenly become one shared roof situation. Later on, that led into another lesson. In front of the roller doors, a drip edge was missing at first, so we had to go back, weld additional steel, grind, prime, and repaint that area. Inside, the fit-out then continued with industrial click tiles, 35mm rubber flooring in the gym zone, workbench, shelving, tools, and all the things that turn a steel shell into a space that actually works. This is also the phase where a project slowly stops looking like a construction site and starts looking like something you can use every day. Once the main shell was in place, we brought the outside levels back up, shaped the terrain to the planned final height, and created a generous paved yard area in front of the garage. On the side, we also added a 10-foot storage container painted in the same reed green. Inside, the workshop and gym were fully set up, and the bathroom was finished properly as well, with water drainage, waterproofing, tiles, toilet, sink, shower, and instantaneous water heater. At that point, the whole thing was no longer just a building site. It had become a functional ensemble of garage, gym, yard, workshop, bathroom, and storage. And that is probably what makes this project so interesting to me. A rotten old double carport was turned into a structure that still clearly looks like a container construction, but at the same time it fits into the property in a way that feels intentional. In winter, 2 cars fit inside comfortably. In summer, the space is used more as a gym and workshop. In front of it, there is now a functional paved yard instead of a muddy mess. And next to it, there is this additional storage. So this is not some gimmick project, it's a structure that actually works in everyday life. If you want to know which part of the project caused the most effort, structure, foundation, access, crane day, or interior fit out, let me know in the comments. If you need help choosing the right container for your project, you'll find more information on shipping-containers.com.au. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like or subscribe. You can also check current examples and available containers on the website. See you in the next one.